Hey guys, Darren Kai, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to an episode of our captain's video for round 22. It's going to be a massive round where we've got lots of different options to discuss, a lot of big captains to come this round. So let's try and dissect how and where you should be putting captain this week. Before we get into that, we'll just quickly review what happened last week. So got let down a little bit with the likes of putting Flanders at number one. That definitely really hurt. So 73 at number one, never good. So finished up at 167 for the week. But overall, the rest of the four were pretty good. Trelaw number one, number two, sorry. Cherry up there with that 150. I threw in Walsh and Dawson in there at 4 and 5 as a bit of a sneaky one. Always thought Walsh should bounce back after his poor form, and I thought Dawson off that injury. Good matchup. He was going to put up a big score, and he was definitely on track. I think he was on like 90 at 3/4 time, and just unfortunately got a little bit of a dislocated finger or something like that early in the fourth, and they put him on ice a little bit in that game. So yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. Definitely could have been a 120, but the only real way I could have improved this was putting a Marshall in there who went 131, I think. Could have gone Sinclair or even a Nick Newman who also had big games. So yeah, overall pretty happy with how I performed. Just unfortunately with Flanders, didn't quite perform for me there at number one. Let's try and right that wrong this week. So we'll go through the fixture one by one, talking about all the options that you should be looking at, and also talking about tags along the way. So starting on the Friday night, we got the Swans and Collingwood. I don't think we're looking at Dacos here, so I haven't really looked at him too much. So yeah, not. I want to discount it a little bit, although the Swans have been a little bit easier recently. They have dropped up in form, as we all know. They got pumped. We saw Zach Butters and Colin Rosie both go about 128 ish. So, and the week before that, Adam Treloar at 125. So they are giving up some points now, whereas early on in the season they have been really tough. So, but I just couldn't do it. I do expect him to still cop a bit of attention. Likes of Rowbottom, Adam Treloar. No, not Adam Treloar. Taylor Adams. You got Luke Parker there as well. James Jordan, I don't think he's doing too much tagging role anymore, so I wouldn't count that one too much. But there's just so many guys that could give him a bit of attention in that CBA, so I'm not looking there. On the flip side, though, Sydney Swans, I'd highly be looking into Nero Goulden. He should be good this week. With some scores against the Collingwood wingmen. So we're talking Massimo D'Ambrosio went 111, and Bailey Scott went 116 as a wingman against Collingwood. So they provide plenty of scores for wingmen, but they also provide scores for midfielders. So you got Sam Walsh who went 130, and you got Jai Calder went 130 as well. So pretty good matchup the Collingwood are. So I do expect Gordon to be really good in this game. On to the next game, we've got Dane Zorko, Nocky Neal. Who else are we looking at there? A few others. I'm probably not really looking at anyone here, honestly. GWS are a really tough matchup, so I'm not really looking at anyone in this game. The only one that you're probably looking at is a Whitfield. Obviously, he's been flying. Hasn't really dropped below 110 in the last sort of 6 or even 8 weeks, I think it is. So, and listen to some of these scores that the Lions have given up to halfbacker. So, Dan Houston, 126. Dane Zorko. No, not Dane Zorko. What am I talking about? They can't provide that. And Mitch Hinge at 130. So bit of skewed numbers there, but yeah, they definitely provide some pretty good scores against halfbackers. So Whitfield could definitely be up there as well. He's pretty confident as well, so you can't really go too wrong with him. I just want to briefly touch on Dunkley, Neal, and Zorko. I just don't want to touch them either, just because GWS are really tough. I get it's at the Gabba, but I just think GWS are too tough for that. You're talking about Neal, he's going to get tagged from Bedford. I am concerned with Dunkley, given its tough matchup, and there's every chance that he cops a bit of attention as well. And Zorko, they just don't provide good points to halfback, so I just wouldn't do it at all. Saturday afternoon, you got North and Eagles. Not looking at anyone from the Eagles. I don't think anyone has owned anyone there. But for North, you're looking at Cherry and you're looking at Sheasel being the predominant two. So I'll talk about Cherry being up there because I think he's going to be quite easily in the top 5. He's gone back-to-back 150s, and he's definitely could go another big 150 again this week. We've seen some pretty big scores against this ruckman, with Jared Witts going 141 last week, and even Rowan Marshall going 118 not too long ago as well. So I expect Cherry just to be an easy sort of 120 guy. So he'll definitely feature in my top 5. Sheasel, on the other hand, doesn't quite slot into my top 5 just because I think the Eagles are a little bit tougher for pure midfielders. So, but yeah, I just don't, it's a hard argument to say. It's splitting hairs at this point, but I just don't think Sheasel was showing that massive ceiling that we're sort of looking for at the moment. Like I think he's dropped like 134 in his last 6, and that was about it. So I'm just looking for a bit more ceiling, a bit more consistent ceilings as well. So I just couldn't back in a Sheasel in this game. I think you're just going with a Cherry there. So, but Sheasel's definitely a good option if you don't have the likes of a Cherry. Moving on to the Dockers and Cats. So really looking at a lot of Dockers here. Where you're looking at Sarong, you're looking at Brayshaw. I wouldn't be looking at a Young, but he's also in that equation. We know how good midfielders are against the Cats. So Sarong, Brayshaw, both of them were in one. So Sarong at 125 and 101 last year, where Brayshaw at 135 and 122. So I think Brayshaw is where you're leaning towards this in this matchup. We've seen some pretty good scores against the likes of Cats, which we've spoken about highly quite often. So Harry Shearer 118, Adam Treloar 149, Errol Goulden 151, Jai Calder 144, Ollie Wines 133, and Zach Butters 128. So massive scores against the Cats, and Brayshaw could definitely get amongst that. Not really looking at any of the defender boys back there. Their game style is just not around it, and it's actually a tough matchup for the Geelong Cats. On the flip side, I think we need to talk about Tom Stewart a little bit more, but this week, again, the Fremantle have only provided 2 110 plus scores against them in the last 5 games, so they're becoming quite restrictive. But we know how friendly the Stewart role is at the moment, where he's in the midfield, he's getting points there in the stoppages, but then also floating back and taking plenty of plus 6s at the back line. So he's probably a safe 100 guy if you're struggling for a captain there. I don't think there's any struggle in this week, but yeah, he's definitely a decent option, but won't be featuring him top 5. On to Essendon and Suns. I'm not looking at any Suns here just because they don't know how to play away from home, so they're all shocking. Whereas Essendon, there's been plenty of points for midfielders and defenders. So we're looking at Merritt, Caldwell, and Martin particularly. So against defenders, we'll quickly touch on them. Liam Duggan went 114, Dane Zorko went 139, Lockie Whitfield went 145, and Dane Houston went 122. So there are plenty of good scores against defenders against the Suns. So I expect it to be good. It's going to be at Marvel, plenty of plus 6s to share around. This is what scares me about a lot of people trading out Zach Martin, because he definitely could put up a 130 on your head very easily this week. So I'm personally holding him, and I wouldn't trust him with the captaincy, but I definitely do see him having a pretty good game. Moving on to the midfielders, I probably wouldn't be trusting either of these guys. Trusting is a hard word to say, because I do expect them to both to go 110-ish, but I'm not really seeing the huge ceiling score that we're looking for a captain option. So, but read out some of these scores. You got Lockie Neal, Jordan Dawson, who went 128 and 129. Tom Green 120, Zach Butters 133, Harry Shearer 134, Andy Brayshaw 136. There's been 9 scores above 110 against these guys, against the Suns. So they definitely provide plenty of midfield points. So I do expect both of them to go well. It's just trying to pick who's going to get the highest ceiling. Is it going to be enough? Are we trying to get that 140, or are we just trying to get like a 120 here? So both of them are great options. Like I said, not looking at Anderson or Flanders just because they're shocking. Although they did go well quite last year against them early on in the year with 118 and 113 respectively. On to the next game, you're not really looking at Max Gawn, I don't think. Sweet has been coming a tougher matchup where Grundy only went 84 against him last week. Grundy, you'd expect to do much better than that. So I'm not looking at Gawn there. On the flip side, though, you got Rosie and Butters, who are in flying form. I don't want to read out too many numbers, but Melbourne are becoming one of the favourites midfield matchups that you can look at for the season. Marcus Bontempelli 135 last week. Adam Treloar 116 as well alongside him. Uh, James Peatling 133. Caleb Sarong, Andy Brayshaw 123, 120, 120. Caleb Sarong, Jai Caldwell 120. Jordan Dawson, no, Josh Dunkley 158. Jack Steele 120 and Sam Walsh 143. So massive scores, good ceiling against them. MCG, so wide open ground. The only flag I maybe put on this one is that it's at the MCG and Port don't particularly play well there. They've only played one game there this year, and I think they lost that game. So it's one I'd be very hesitant against, but it should be a bloodbath and should be plenty of points for the high flying Port at the moment. Onto the Sunday game. So this is really where you're looking for your C option if you haven't got one already. So you've got Nick Newman, I think is the only one really looking for at against the Hawks. They provide plenty of points for designated kickout players and defenders. So we saw Lockie Whitfield go 137, and Liam Duggan go 132 against them very recently. So definitely could put up a 130 here. Walshy, on the other hand, is a very tough matchup for midfielders, so I don't think we're looking at Walshy at all. Flip side, not looking at Dylan Moore, not looking at Day. I think no options really there at Hawthorn. Onto the Richmond and St Kilda game. This is where we're looking for a lot of our captains. So you've got the likes of Marshall, Steele, and Sinclair, I think are huge targets and a huge captaincy options. So we know how friendly Richmond have been. So I'll start off with the Ruckman. So we've got Marshall, he went 136 early on in the year, right? That's already a great record. And we've had Kieran Briggs go 140, and we had Cherry who went 130 against him last week. So both absolutely killing it. And I do expect Marshall to go big, so he is highly in my top 5. Whereas midfielders for against Richmond, you've got LDU who went 123 last week. Nick Dacos went 128. Tom Green went 123. Andy Brayshaw went 146. Sam Walsh went 132. And Jordan Dawson went 124. So plenty of 120 plus scores there. So I do expect, Jack still to hit at 120. So I think he features as well. Jack Sinclair's a really hard one to read because, again, he's only put up a couple ceiling scores. So he does not feature, but he went 105 last time they played, where Jack Steele went 131. So that's probably just my justification, but he's in flying form, and I still highly recommend trading him in. And finally, the last game of the round. Don't think we're looking at any of the Crows boys. I think Dawson's pretty banged up, and there's every chance they just put him on ice for the game. Laird has been very up and down. He's playing more of a half-back role now as well, so a bit tough to say. And I think that's all we're really looking at there. And on the flip side, you got Bont and Treloar. So Bont went 110 in round 20 in 2023. That's what I'm trying to say. They haven't played this year, so no real recent data. There's been no good scores against the Crows either, so I'm probably not looking at any of these ones. Whereas Treloar didn't play last time they played, so tough to really say. At Adelaide Oval, who knows how they'll perform? I'm just not really looking at anyone here. Alright, so let's look at my top 5, I guess. Tags, the only one I did say was Lockie Neal. I think that's the only tag that we really need to look out for. The Swans possibly, and Chin Cotter is the only other one that I wanted to say was probably going to go Will Day or something like that. So, but who is my top 5? So number 1, I think it's no surprise. I think it's pretty common. Is going to be Rowan Marshall. Just for the fact he scored 136 against this guy, Nick Nankovas last time. We saw Cherry, what he did on the weekend with 150, and we saw Kieran Briggs recently do 140 as well. So he should go big. He's in flying form. He's been scoring 130s for fun against tougher opponents. What is he capable of against an easy opponent? So Rowan Marshall has to slot in there at number 1, and he'll definitely be my captain this week. Number 2, he's also highly selected. No surprise. Cherry, back-to-back 150s. 156 and 150 there. So I back him to go back and do another 150 this week against the Eagles. We've seen some pretty good scores against them, and his ruck craft is just awesome. He gets the tap out, he hits it to the other opponent, and he just cuddles them. So he's just getting multiple points, and his floor's unreal. So he'll be my VC as well. So I'm going with my number 1 and 2 here. This is where it starts to get a bit tricky for me because, like I said, there's a bunch of different options that we could look at. So we're talking Golden, we're talking Whitfield, talking Sheasel, Butters, Steele, Brayshaw. You can even throw in the likes of Merritt, Caldwell, um, Sinclair, Butters, Rosie. I think I may have already said that already. There's just so many different options. So trying to split these hairs is real tough for me. But I think I'm going to back in the matchup of the Melbourne. So I think I'm going to go Zach Butters here. Bit lowly owned, but I think he'll go well. Port are in flying form. They're really performing and really getting ready for finals. So I think they're going to take advantage, and I think Butters gets it done against them. Shouldn't cop any attention. I don't think Neil Bullen goes to them at all. Neil Bullen really hasn't been doing much attention at all. So yeah, I think I'm backing Zach Butters there. Number 4 is probably not super highly selected either, which is a bit funny. But Jack Steele is another one I'm looking at. Great matchup, as I said. There plenty of points there to take against Richmond. Marvel as well, so Richmond don't perform there well, and we have seen the likes of these tackling midfielders that are absolutely flying. Like you're talking Andy Brayshaw 146, Sam Walsh 132. He should hit a 120 here easily. So I'm going Jack Steele. And speaking of Andy Brayshaw, he is my number 5, backing him in. At number 5 there against... Who are they playing? I can't remember now. They are playing the Cats. So the easiest matchup for midfielders. Shouldn't cop any attention. He's had a good record against them. And obviously the scores against the Cats have been phenomenal. So this is my top 5. Very unlucky for, the likes of Whitfield and Goulden to not make my top 5. I think if I wanted to play just a straight bat, they could definitely slot in over the likes of Butters and Brayshaw or Steele. I think the top 2 are pretty common across the board, but from my research, it's telling me to go with Butters and Steele above those 2. So that's just where the numbers lie, and that's where the stats tell me to go. So this is my top 5. Like I said, I'll definitely be going Cherry into Marshall. I think that'll be pretty common across the board. Just a reminder, while I've still got you guys, is make sure you got your loops in order, because like I said, Barnett plays pretty early, and there's not really too many other looping options. Like if you have a Collingwood boy that they play first game, if you have a Shawmaker, I think is the perfect looping option this round, because he plays the second last game. So yeah, highly expect him to be loopable. So yeah. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully your captain smash it this week and you get a big 150, because I definitely think there'll be a few out there this weekend. So it'll be a big round so far. So please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.